Well, hello, all you beautiful people out there in Minecraft land. How are you today? I am fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. My name is Vid, and today I am going to show you 4 practical redstone contraptions. These are things that I build in every single Minecraft world that I ever create, and they're extremely useful, and hopefully you'll find some use as well. These contraptions are designed to be used in Java Minecraft. I'm playing in Java right now, but don't worry, Bedrock players, I got you. I'm going to show you some Bedrock equivalents, or in many cases, the exact same circuit that can be used in Bedrock as well. So just stay tuned after the Java edition of every explanation, and I will show you Bedrock as well. The first circuit I'm going to show you is the 1-for-1 shop. This is great for multiplayer servers when you want to set up a shop and maybe sell one item for one other item. In this case, I'm selling 1 shulker box for 1 diamond block. So you put your diamond block in the barrel and get a shulker box in return. Let me just show you how that looks. When I put my diamond block in, bang, there it is, a shulker. In this case, it's an empty shulker box, but it could just as easily be a shulker full of like cobblestone or something, for example. You can sell 1 item for 1 item. The best part about this is it's a multi-sorter, so you can actually put in all of your diamonds. I put in 10 diamonds, and look at that, got 10 shulker boxes. It counts them all correctly and everything. Now, I know everybody in the comments is going to say, what if I want to sell 10 items for a diamond, or, you know, like a stack of gold blocks for a diamond or something like that? Hey, this is a 1-for-1 shop, not a 1-for-64 shop or whatever. If you want to find a different tutorial, you can do that. This is just an example of a circuit that I use 1-for-1, and maybe you can modify it. Let me show you the circuit. I stripped the circuit down to its bare bones here. Here we have a barrel sitting on a floor against a wall. But, as you might imagine, the wall and the floor are not actually necessary, and they're only there to kind of show you or hide the circuitry below. So I'm going to get rid of all this stuff. The way this works is we've got a standard item filter right here. So you're going to put items into this barrel right here that are going to be sucked up by this hopper. And in this case, I'm looking specifically for diamond blocks, and they're going to be read by this comparator, etc., item filter. All of your profits are going to end up down here underneath the machine. But what's going to happen every time a diamond or a diamond block gets filtered through this machine here, it's going to trigger this repeater to start flashing. And it's going to flash a number of times equal to the number of items that pass through the filter. That's basically just going to pulse this dropper up here. And of course, your dropper is just full of whatever product you're selling. You could put additional storage up top just to make sure that you have enough storage. Here was my previous testing, so let me just put all of these shulkers back up here again, and then I'm going to get out my diamond blocks here, 22 diamond blocks. See what happens. As I put my diamonds in, you can see the machine flash, 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 and that's just firing the dropper every single time, and it's just going to fill up all of the shulker boxes. So again, very, very useful circuit if you want to sell things in a shop. Now let's look at the same circuit on Bedrock. Here I'm trying to sell lodestones, and I've just got 64 lodestones stuck in here, and I'm going to sell them for 1 diamond each. So let's see what happens when I put in 12 diamonds. Well, you can see the diamonds are going down, but the repeater isn't actually pulsing. It just went on and stayed on. That's a problem, and something different about Bedrock. Luckily, we can fix the problem by making a slight modification. So the first part of the circuit is the same, but the second part of the circuit here, after the repeater, we're actually going to feed into a comparator, a block, a few pieces of redstone dust, then a repeater, and then back into redstone dust that is in subtraction mode on this comparator to make sure that what we're doing here is creating a 1-tick pulse while this repeater turns on. And those pulses, clock pulses, are basically being sent up here to this block where they're powering the dropper, and then the dropper is just going to fire items in. In this case, I'm using observers, and I think I'm using diamond blocks as my currency here. So let's see what happens when I put in 11 diamond blocks. You can see we're getting our pulses, pulse, 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 pulse. The dropper is firing, and sure enough, we've got our 11 observers, just like we wanted. So you should be able to build this circuit based on what I'm showing you here. It's pretty simple, nothing too complicated. I'll give you a full view all around. Feel free to pause so that you can see every step of how to build this thing. Pretty easy. Back over on Java now, and circuit number 2 is the auto dropper. So the way this works is we've got a hopper feeding into a dropper, and anything we place in that hopper is just going to get fed out and spit directly out of this dropper. This is great for feeding, say, the output of a farm into a dropper that you can just automatically drop into a water stream and carry your items all the way back to a storage system. This is going to fire until it runs out of items, and then it will automatically stop all by itself. Very, very cool circuit and very, very simple. Again, you can build it just by looking at it. So you've got a comparator coming out of the dropper into a block, a dust, and then over here on this side, a block, a repeater, a dust feeding back. And then on top, you've got a block, a dust, and another block. Easy, easy stuff. And now over to Bedrock, let's look at the same circuit. We've got the hopper up here. We're going to put our mangrove planks in here, and well, we can see the machine is flashing. All of the items are going into the dropper, but nothing's being spit out. That is because this machine relies on a weird quasi-connectivity bug in Java Edition and doesn't work on Bedrock. But don't worry, there's a very simple modification we can make to make this work on Bedrock. All we're going to do is move the dropper and the hopper one block forward. Something like this. Can break these ones in the back here. We're going to add another block right there so that we're actually reading the value of the dropper through this block, which is possible. We're going to put another block down here with another piece of dust on it, and then we're going to put one more final block right there. So what's going to happen is we're going to read the value of the items in the dropper there, and then we're going to pulse, and the pulse is going to be brought to this block, which will power the dropper. And let's watch that happen. There we go. And you can see the auto dropper is working perfectly fine on Bedrock Edition. Again, fantastic circuit, one of my favorite circuits, definitely something that I use in every single world that I make, and working on both Java and Bedrock with some slight changes. If you find any value in what you're seeing today, hey, can you consider subscribing to the channel? It doesn't cost you anything and it helps me out a lot. Thank you. Back over to Java now for the third circuit, which is the fast minecart unloader. And don't worry, this isn't it, but I just wanted to show you something really quick. We all know that if you put items in a chest above a hopper minecart, those items will go into the chest really, really fast. Then we can send it off, and when it gets to its destination, well, yeah, we end up with a very slow withdraw of items from the hopper minecart because of how slow hoppers actually move, and there isn't really a faster way we can do this, is there? Well, yes, as a matter of fact, there is. This is the fast hopper minecart unloader, also known as the minecart yeeter, and I'll show you why it's called that in a second. So let me tell you how this thing works. First of all, we're going to put our amethyst in our hopper, fill up the hopper really fast. When I push this button, you're going to see a bunch of things happen. The minecart's going to move across. It's going to activate this detector rail right here and then send a signal down. I'll get to that in a minute though. But then it's going to continue on its way up this path. It's going to glitch partially into this mud block here. It's going to be aligned against this amethyst cluster, which has a very specific size hitbox. And because it's partially glitched inside this mud, it's going to intersect this cauldron. It's going to try to snap down onto this rail down here. It's not going to work. There's lava in this cauldron. You can't see it, but there is lava in this cauldron. What that's going to do is it's going to cause the minecart to break. And what's really neat in this scenario, all of the items get yeeted out of the minecart and end up in this water stream down here, and the minecart itself gets yeeted down into the cauldron of lava. But before it has a chance to burn, it actually gets sucked out by this hopper, brought into this dropper, which is facing up. And remember that signal that I talked about over here? So the detector rail picked up that signal, so the minecart came across, activated this observer, no block into an observer. That activates this dropper very fast, which fires the minecart back up into a dispenser. And then the second pulse comes from the rail deactivating here, which fires the dispenser. And that puts the minecart back on the track, which sends it back over here. I know that was a really long, complicated explanation, but I wanted to tell you what's gonna happen so that when you see it, you're just kind of amazed at the speed and the interest that this thing causes. Watch this. Boom. Done. Just like that. The minecart has been returned back home with nothing in it, and all of the items, 64 amethyst, nothing got burned in the lava, all ended up right down here. The cool thing about this design is it is one wide tileable. If you remove this glass here, you can stack these things as far as you want. So if you have a farm and you want to put a whole bunch of these machines all along side by side, that will work. and you could just collect all the drops in a water stream and bring them really fast to a storage solution or something like that. Fantastic little device. I love this. Let's check out how this works in Bedrock. All right, let's check out the same circuit on Bedrock Edition now. We've got our amethyst loaded into this, and we're going to push our button, and it's going to come across, and it just kind of gets stuck here on this mud. Unfortunately, the mechanic does not work in Bedrock Edition, but all is not lost. We do have something that we can do in Bedrock that looks kind of like this. Now, this isn't anybody's crazy good design or anything. This is just me playing around trying to get something similar to happen. So what I've got is I've got my minecart full of amethyst here. I'm going to push this button and it's going to start coming along the way. What's going to happen is as it passes by this rail right here, this detector rail, the observer is going to detect the minecart coming onto this and then again coming off. So that's going to result in two pulses, two very fast pulses as the minecart passes by. That feeds into a dispenser over here, and the dispenser has a lava bucket inside. Guess what happens when it gets two quick pulses? The first pulse is going to dispense the lava out. The second pulse is going to retract the lava back in again. The minecart, meanwhile, is headed on its way in this direction, and when it gets somewhere around here, there's a weird visual glitch that happens. It's actually in the lava, even though it's going to appear to be around here. So what ends up happening is that the minecart burns, ejects itself and all of its contents, and they end kind of in these two squares right here, as long as there's a block right here. That's why I've got this extra circuit here, because as the minecart passes, what's going to happen? It's going to push this block out long enough that the minecart can get to here and eject its stuff into one of these two blocks, and then this block gets retracted again when this becomes depowered and the items fall right through. So that's the description. Now let's watch it actually happen. Here we go. Push the button. And yeet, boom. Once in a while, we end up with items stuck up here. Doesn't happen very often, but sometimes that might be able to be fixed if we had another block here or something. But we also have the minecart and the items. None of the items did get burned. Like I do have the full set of 64 amethyst. If I check my inventory, yep, got them all, and got the minecart back as well. So nothing was destroyed, but there might be some extra logic required to kind of pull this stuff out or separate it or whatever. Not the greatest circuit in the world, but hey, it does work most of the time. And just to prove this works, let's try this one more time. Push the button and everything gets out and falls down. Now we have our full set of 64 amethyst and our hopper minecart back. So as I said, a little bit of work to get rid of the hopper minecart, but hey, at least we got all of our items. And the last redstone circuit I wanted to show you is two pieces of obsidian. No, it's actually a horizontal flying machine, but I wanted to show you just how easy it is to build. I've got this obsidian here. I'm just going to place a observer from underneath so it's facing up, and then I'm going to place a temporary block and then another observer on top of that just a little bit forward. Break the slime block, the temporary block. Underneath the two observers, slime, slime, perfect. Now I'm going to take my sticky pistons. I need two of these, one facing back towards the slime, and then on the other side, another one facing back towards the slime. Done. Easy, easy. And check this out. I can send this thing off just by triggering some sort of reset on this further back observer here. I'm just going to put a piece of obsidian down and it flies off. Very, very cool. The nice thing about these things on Java, they could be 10 extra blocks, or I think it's 9 extra blocks for a total of 10 wide. So you can make these things really wide if you want to. I'm just going to put a few blocks like that, and let's see what happens when I trigger it to go the other way. Very, very cool. It's also really easy to set up a station to automatically trigger these things. You could just use observers and maybe a trapdoor or something to flip down on top of this, and that'll continuously make it sweep back and forth. This is really useful for things like this. Harvesting sugarcane. Check it out. I've got a great big 20 by 30 block sugarcane field, and think about how long this would harvest by hand. Now watch this. Flying machine, you just tap this note block, off it goes. And of course you could set this up to be totally automatic as well. What I like to do is put an observer on the side of one of these blocks like this so that it measures when it gets all the way to the top, and that is going to fire off a signal when it grows, and you could use that to trigger your flying machine. Of course, you can have automatic return stations as well, and I'm not going to cover that in this video, but it is very, very simple, very trivial to add a return station to make these things auto fire, or auto sweep. It's really, really cool. Now let's take a look at the Bedrock version. And this is the same flying machine built on Bedrock. Let's see what happens when I trigger it. I'm just going to use flint and steel this time to fire it off. And yeah, it didn't really do anything. Let's try the other way. No, maybe, no. Yeah, these things are not really as reliable on Bedrock as they are on Java. Oops, looks like I broke one of the observers. One thing you can do to make these things a lot more reliable is replace one of the sticky pistons, let's say this one right here, with a regular piston facing this way. Now, this one's still a sticky piston, and this one is a regular piston, and check out the way this piston is extending. It's going to extend in that direction, and that's the way we can make this thing fly. So let me light this up, and away it goes. Very reliable to do this way. The biggest problem with this kind of flying machine on Bedrock is it is not bi-directional. That is, when it gets to the end, it's going to stop. And if we try to send it the other way again, let's just wait and see this happen here. Here we go, coming in for a landing, and docked. If we try to send it out again, yeah, it's just not going to work. We can fix this by swapping the pistons around again. So if I make this one into a sticky piston and this one into a regular piston, something like that, then again, it becomes very reliable. Set it off and away it's going to go. The problem is, yeah, not always practical to swap pistons in and out, is it? If you're looking for a reliable flying machine on Bedrock, this is about as good as it gets. I have tested this thing extensively, and I can say it does fly with a lot of reliability. So let's go right here. It's not 100% reliable though. Sometimes it does get stuck, but it's better than average. And of course, when it gets to the other end, you can just come around the other side and trigger this observer, and off we go again. This thing is pretty easy to build. It does use a lot more blocks than the Java version, but hey, it's still not that many. You can build it kind of by looking at it. You've got an L shape of slime here. You've got an observer on the outside facing out. You've got a sticky piston facing back. You've got another observer facing out. In the middle, you've got two pistons, one facing back, one facing forward. And then on this side, it's basically the complete rotated version. So slime blocks in the face of an L, the observer facing outwards, the sticky piston facing back, and the observer facing outwards. You can also extend this thing. Now you can only extend it up to about 4 blocks here. And when you do, unfortunately, it does become a little less reliable. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The downside is, even when it is this wide, you're still only at about 10 blocks maximum. So it's about half the width of the regular flying machine from Java Edition. And there's that unreliability I was talking about, it just broke. Yeah, so like I said, not always the most reliable when you start to add the wings to it. But if you make it a little bit smaller, it does tend to increase its reliability again. So I have found this thing to be fairly repeatable if it's small enough, but again, I've broken 2 more blocks off it, and now it's only 8 wide. If you replace the outer blocks with something like glass, you can at least make these things stack side by side, so that they won't stick to each other, and you could still use them 8 wide, so that you could use them to take down your sugarcane farm or whatever. As for me, I'm sticking with my flying machines in Java Edition. If you liked this episode and found some value in it, hey, I would highly encourage you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more episodes. As I said before, it does help me out greatly to do so, so please consider subscribing, maybe leave a like. That would be great too. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!